In a fictional breaking news scenario inspired by escalating regional tensions, a sudden wave of conflict erupts across the Middle East, sending shockwaves through cities already living on the edge of fear and uncertainty. The first warning does not arrive as a siren, it arrives as silence. Over the skies of northern Israel, that silence is broken by a distant, rising roar. At first, it sounds like thunder trapped inside clouds. Then the night splits open with streaks of light, dozens, then hundreds, cutting across the sky like burning threads of anger. In seconds, the horizon becomes a storm of motion, and the ground below braces for impact. Somewhere in that unfolding chaos are people who never asked to be part of history. The characters caught in the fire in a small coastal town. Eitan Levin, a 29-year-old emergency medic, is already awake before the alarms. He has been awake like this for years, since he lost his younger brother in a previous flare-up of violence. Eitan once dreamed of becoming a surgeon in Tel Aviv, saving lives in bright, sterile rooms. Now he saves them in basements and shattered streets, carrying a medical bag that feels heavier every year, not because of its contents, but because of what it represents: repetition. His fear is not death. His fear is arriving too late. Far north of the border, Rana Haddad, a schoolteacher in her early 30s, sits in a dim apartment with her 2 children asleep on thin mattresses. She used to teach poetry lines about olive trees, rain, and the patience of time. She still believes in those poems, even now. But belief feels fragile when the sky itself begins to tremble. Rana's dream is simple: to keep her children alive long enough to grow up in a world where they don't learn the sound of explosions before they learn multiplication. And deeper inside the web of command and consequence, in a fortified underground facility, a senior regional strategist known only as Karim watches shifting maps flicker across a screen. Once a university student obsessed with engineering and systems theory, Karim believed strategy could be detached from emotion, clean, mathematical, precise. He no longer believes that, because every line on his map now represents a place where real people breathe, fear, and bleed. The first wave, when the rockets begin to fall in this imagined scenario, they do not fall as symbols of politics or ideology. They fall as interruptions of ordinary life: a wedding plate still warm on a kitchen counter, a classroom chalkboard half erased, a child's shoe left beside a bed. Air defense systems ignite in response, streaking upward like artificial stars trying to argue with gravity. The sky becomes layered: fire above, fear below. Eitan is already moving when the first impact is reported. His radio crackles with fragmented voices, coordinates, injured civilians, blocked roads. He doesn't ask questions anymore. Questions slow you down, and slowing down is how people disappear. But even as he runs toward danger, something inside him fractures, not from fear, but from recognition. He knows the names that will come through the radio before they are spoken. He has learned the pattern of suffering the way others learn music. Subplot 1. The children who refuse to sleep in Rana's building. Her son Adam refuses to stay under the bed. "I want to see it," he whispers, eyes wide, not with bravery, but with confusion. He is 7. He believes disasters are temporary events like rainstorms, things adults eventually fix. Rana pulls him close, but her hands shake. Her internal conflict is not political. It is primal. She is torn between 2 instincts: to protect her children by hiding them, or to prepare them for a world that never stops shaking. Outside, distant detonations paint brief flashes of light through the curtains. For a moment, the room looks like it is breathing. Rana begins to tell a story, not a poem this time, but something older. A story about endurance, about trees that bend but do not break. Her voice becomes a shield stronger than the walls. Subplot 2. The strategists collapse deep underground. Karim notices something no one else wants to acknowledge. The system is no longer predictable. He watches trajectories shift, interception patterns fail, responses escalate in cascading layers. What was designed as control is now becoming momentum. For the first time in years, he feels something crack inside him, not fear of failure but grief for precision. He once believed that distance from consequences made decisions cleaner. Now he understands distance is an illusion. He stares at the map and sees not regions, not operations but memories of people he will never meet. A childhood he cannot reverse, a silence he cannot restore, and in that realization his confidence, the thing that once made him effective, begins to dissolve into something heavier: responsibility. Turning point: when systems stop listening as the hours stretch, communication networks overload, reports contradict each other. Leaders argue, interceptors are deployed faster than they can be replaced. The system, once imagined as structured and controlled, begins to behave like something alive and panicked. Aiton finds himself treating injuries in a temporary shelter lit by flickering emergency lamps. A boy grips his sleeve and asks if the sky is broken. Aiton has no answer that won't harm the child more than the truth, so he does what he has always done: he stays. Not because he believes it will end soon, but because leaving would mean surrendering the only thing still within reach: human contact. Climax: the moment everyone realizes the same truth across all sides of the conflict: civilian, soldier, strategist. A quiet realization emerges simultaneously, though no one speaks it aloud. This is not a moment that can be won, in the way people imagine victories. Rana, holding her children as dust drifts from the ceiling, understands that survival is not only physical. It is psychological. If fear becomes permanent, then even survival loses meaning. Karim, staring at collapsing assumptions, understands that control was never real, only delayed consequence. Aiton, pulling another injured civilian onto a stretcher, understands that endurance itself is a form of resistance, even when nothing else holds. Final movement: what remains after the sky as dawn approaches in this imagined scenario? The rockets cease. Not because resolution has been reached, but because exhaustion has replaced momentum. The sky slowly returns to its ordinary color, as if pretending nothing happened, but nothing is the same. In the silence that follows, Rana steps outside briefly. The air smells different, not of fire but of aftermath. She holds her children close and realizes they are still here. That is the only sentence her mind can form. Aiton sits on the ground beside a collapsed wall, finally allowing his hands to stop shaking. He thinks of his brother, not as a wound, but as a reminder that memory is the only thing war cannot fully erase. And far beneath the earth, Karim closes the map for the first time, not because the conflict has ended, but because he can no longer pretend it is abstract. Closing reflection in this fictionalized reconstruction of conflict: there are no clean victories and no simple villains, only people caught inside systems larger than themselves, trying to preserve fragments of humanity while everything around them accelerates. And in that struggle, one truth remains constant. Even in the loudest storms of history, it is the quiet acts: holding a child, treating a wound, refusing to stop caring, that survive the longest. After the sky goes silent,